monitoring, and closing processes. Project managers, especially in software development projects, often wonder about which methodology suits best for their requirements. Waterfall, Agile, Lean, Extreme Programming, Six Sigma are common methodologies. Although both methodologies serve the same purpose, their software development lifecycle are different. What is the Agile methodology? Continuous collaboration and iteration are key for Agile implementation. Scrum, Kanban methodology, Extreme Programming, and Adaptive Project Framework are the Agile frameworks. All the projects and organizations are not suited to Agile. It is mostly applicable to large and complex projects. What is the waterfall methodology? The waterfall is a linear sequential model in which the project work is completed sequentially in each phase. This means the predecessor phase ends and the successor phase starts just after. The waterfall is a straightforward methodology for project management that helps to perform progress measurement easily. The testing phase takes place at the end of the development. What are the differences between Agile and Waterfall? Agile methodology divides the project development lifecycle into sprints. Waterfall methodology divides the software development process into distinct phases. Follows an incremental approach. Follows a linear sequential approach. It is a flexible methodology. It is a rigid structural methodology. Agile can be considered as a collection of various projects. It will be done as one single project. It is easy to make changes because of its flexibility. It is difficult to make changes. The test plan is discussed after the completion of each sprint. The test plan is reviewed during the testing phase. Project requirements are subject to change. The waterfall is suitable for projects with definite requirements.
I want us to look at this table very well, and let's just oppose it with what we've learned so far. So the Agile methodology is what I'm going to introduce you to, which I'm currently introducing you to. The waterfall methodology is the same thing as the traditional method, or let me just say project management, which has the initiation, execution phase that my colleagues have introduced you to. One, the Agile methodology divides the project development lifecycle into sprints. Later on, we are going to be talking about what sprint is. Yeah. The other one, for waterfall, it divides the software development process into distinct phases. Who can tell me what these distinct phases are? Anyone? Mr. Ibrahim Moshood, can you tell me what this distinct phases? I've mentioned it just this earlier on. Are you there?
Sorry, please, can you repeat the question?
Okay. I was trying to explain the differences, to mention the differences between this Agile methodology and the waterfall methodology. And I asked what, like for waterfall methodology, which is the traditional method that has been introduced to participants earlier on, that what are the distinct phases in the process of developing whatever project. You can just ignore the software. You can replace it with a project and anything or any task. Do you get the question?
Yes, I do. Sad. Yes, I do.
Okay, so can anyone just take that? The distinct phases. Nobody?
Is it project initiation?
Okay.
Planning. Sad.
Okay.
Oh God. Sorry, please. I have to. My son, I'm coming, please.
No problem. Can another person just take that up?
Communication, planning, execution, monitoring. No.
Okay, thank you very much. That's just it. Those are the distinct phases. Moving
Changes are not easy. Agile is a customer-focused methodology. Changes on the product are as per the customer's requirements. Waterfall methodology relies on definite project requirements. A fixed project budget is not suitable for the implementation of Agile methodology. There may be some flexibility. Since all the requirements in the project scope is defined well, the project budget does not change too much. High communication and collaboration among the team members. Low communication and collaboration among the team members. The product owner and the project team collect the requirements every day. All the requirements are defined before starting the project. Follows an iterative development approach so that planning, development, and testing phases may appear more than once. Phases are linear and sequential. Once a phase is completed, the next phase starts.
Now, at that follow an iterative development approach. Just like you mentioned, the initiation phase, the planning phase, the execution phase, and the monitoring phase. For Agile method, it can appear more than once. But if you follow well for the traditional method, you know that the initiation phase comes first, then the planning goes, then the execution, then the monitoring. So for Agile, you can have some of these phases coming more than once. You can even have them multiple times. But for the waterfall methodology, you have to finish one phase. You have to finish A before you go to B. You have to finish B before you go to C.
Testing is performed in conjunction with software development. The testing phase comes once the build phase is completed. To sum up, Waterfall is essentially making a good plan and sticking to it, while Agile provides a more flexible and iterative approach. Waterfall is more sequential and predefined, while Agile is more adaptable as a project progresses.
So that's just it. So what this is just basically telling us is that for the agile project management, you can have some of these phases appear more than once. So you don't need to finish the initial phase before you go to the planning phase. You don't need to finish the planning phase before you go to the execution phase. So they work in an incremental or iterative manner. Sorry. So what is Agile project management? Agile project management is an approach to project and team management based on the Agile manifesto. So what is this manifesto? The manifesto is a collection of 4 values and 12 principles that defines the mindset that all Agile teams should strive for. So there's these guiding values and principles that every Agile manager or Agile project manager or any company or any firm that is adopting the Agile approach must have. So you must have these 4 values and 12 principles. So let's go back to how Agile project management came into being. So Agile management started in the 1990s during the boom of the software industry. Softwares like Google and the likes were just coming on board. Meanwhile, there were some tech giants of that time that were experimenting a way to build better software and stay competitive. We all know how the software industry, or let me just say the tech industry, is a very, very competitive space. If you are not careful, one new firm will just come with an angel investor and they will just throw you out. So these people wanted an approach. The traditional approach was slow. It was things were not going as expected. So, and in a competitive way, you need to start thinking outside the box. You need to start um, thinking of other approaches on how to better off than your competitor. So in this competitive growing environment, companies couldn't just create new innovative products. They also needed to innovate the very processes they were using to develop these new products. So in 2011, the thought leaders and creators of some of these new processes, also called methodologies, came together to find common ground between their methods and solve a problem. The problem they agreed was um, was that companies were so focused on planning and documenting their projects. If you remember, in the traditional approach, the planning, you plan, you document, you initiate, you execute, you monitor. So they felt they were so focused on planning and documenting their project that they lost sight of what really mattered, which was pleasing their customers. And these customers, they don't have that time. So if you don't produce on time, they'll go to another place. So these leaders came up with the Agile Manifesto to guide others on what they believe really matters when developing software, which is keeping the process flexible. Keyword flexible. If you remember in our definition of um, agile, we said it also refers to flexibility. Are you connecting? So, which is keeping the process flexible and focusing on people, both the team and the users, over the end products or deliverables. Now, if you look at the traditional approach, you see that emphasis and focus is more on the project, the the customer, like what you want to deliver. Okay, I want to deliver this project at this so timeline. I want to please my stakeholder and the rest. But this agile approach is actually coming from another perspective about focusing the on the team, which are the people that are behind these products, and the users, which are the customers. So, what are the values of agile project management? The manifesto for agile software development states that they are uncovering better ways of developing software by doing it and helping others do it. Like I said in when we were watching the video for the differences between um, agile project management and traditional and the waterfall approach, that software can be anything. It doesn't necessarily mean an app, a website. So in this context, if you'll be seeing more of software and software and software. So just take it as a project also. So by doing it and helping others do it through this work. So we have come to value four things over four things. Yeah. One is individual and interactions over processes and tools. So what does this mean? It means that while the project management is stressing over, okay, you are following this process of going through the initiation phase, going through the planning phase, going through the um, execution phase. The agile project approach is not actually looking at that aspect. So here you are following is stressing that people communicate with each other over using lots of processes and tools to force things to happen in a certain way. For example, I remembered um, when I was in my former firm, so we use this app called Slack. So the Slack is to communicate and to do other business transactions, other approvals. And sometimes I would just need something from probably the tech team or the compliance team or the internal control, and I'll just slack them. Okay, so I'm having this issue. Can you hear me look over it? And people will just, I don't know, people are busy and it will take time forever for them to respond. And we are in the same building, yeah. But then I'm following the processes and tools because these are the tools for communication. But what Agile is saying that instead of doing that, why not just interact? Just go and meet the person, have a brief discussion over whatever you are having or whatever problem you are facing. So Agile values individual perspective and creativity. So it doesn't even mean that you don't need to use some of these tools. No, some of these tools are still going to be used in your project or in dealing with problems. But then it values communication, having to meet um, people in a short time to to solve problems. Secondly, working software over comprehensive um, documentation. One, so this actually means that you should prioritize spending time working on things that actually create value and avoid spending any more time that they really need on debating, writing, and reviewing documents. So imagine you having a project and you have to do the project charter, you have to do the what are these documents again? Who can remind me? Someone should remind me some of the documents that you've learned so far. Mr. Ridwan Akibu. Are you there? I hope I was not talking to myself all this while. Can people hear me? Hello.
Hello, we can hear you, sir.
Okay. Mr. Adepoju, can you just tell us like two documents that we use in project management from what you've learned so far?
Project charter.
Okay, yeah, the project charter. So the Gantt charts, so other documents also. So what this is just telling us is that you value um what really matters over just debating, writing, or having to have long documents. Yeah. So the third value is customer collaboration over contract um, negotiation. So in agile projects, the customer satisfaction is considered the highest priority of building a high quality and valuable product. So we lay emphasis on customer in agile management over just having to discuss or sit down to have a negotiation or contract negotiation. After all, it's if it's not valuable to the customer, then there's little point spending time on it. So what this is telling us is that over just having those official documents that requires sign off, formal agreement with the customer, such as I sometimes you have to require some huge documents for stuff. So what Agile Values is saying is that there should be the freedom to collaborate with the customers early and often. So in doing so, teams can quickly react and adapt to what customer needs rather than waiting out.
I don't see your screen.
Hello?
You don't
Is someone trying to talk to me?
your screen is not displaying.
Okay, my screen is not.
I think it's
displaying.
no. I think it's displaying. Maybe it's from the person's network. Yeah,
Okay.
your screen.
Can
Can
you
you see it?
can you see from your end?
Yes, I can see it from here.
You can see from your end.
Yes, yes. I can see from my hand values of Agile project management.
Okay.
So maybe it's
So what?
Continue.
Okay, thank you. So what customer collaboration over contract negotiation is saying that instead of just having those documents, official documents, having to sign off, having to do all that, why not just collaborate with the customer? Let the customer be in your processes. So then often you know what the customer needs at every point in time. Yeah. So the fourth one is about responding to change over following a plan. Now, this is very, very interesting because you can actually connect it to what happened in 2020. Just imagine you are a firm in 2020 and you've always had this to follow. Okay, you meet Mr. A, or we have these processes and tools that we use and blah, blah, blah. And COVID just came and there was no way for you to function. In fact, in 2020, we learned that most firms closed up because of COVID, because they were not able to respond to that change that came. So what Agile project management is saying is that changes would always come, no matter what. Things will always change. You need to be flexible enough to respond to change. So instead of following through a plan, instead of having to follow through initiation and monitoring phase or execution phase, just be able to integrate whatever changes that comes your way into your projects. So the first one, individual and interaction, which says instead of just waiting to follow through the processes and tools, why don't you just meet people one-on-one, interact with them and know what is actually going on. The second one, working software over comprehensive documentation. Instead of going through a lot of documentation, just focus on what really, really matters over documentation, customer collaboration and contract negotiation. So instead of just having your customers to sign this, why not you just collaborate with your customer? Let them be in every processes so that you know their needs at every point in time. And the fourth value is responding to change over following a plan. That plan might not work out, but the ability for you to integrate changes would really, really help you a lot in your projects. So the 12 agile principles. So what are these principles? Number one is our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. So whether you are working to create a product, yeah, for your company or for a customer, chances are that someone is awaiting its delivery. And like I said the other time, time is very, very essence to customers. If you are delaying me, I'll just go ahead to the other person offering the same services you are offering. So if that delivery is delayed, the result is that the customers would just leave you, and that's a very, very bad reputation to your project. So what Agile emphasizes that delivering value to users early and often creates a steady value stream. You make more money, you build loyalty with your customers and the likes. So this helps your um your company or your firm or your project on the long run. The second one is welcoming changing requirements, even late in development. Agile processes are next change for the customer's competitive advantage. So when working in Agile, it's important to be agile, like I said, That's being flexible and being adaptive to changes. So, which means you need to move swiftly. You need to be able to shift direction whenever necessary. This also means that your team are constantly scanning your environment to make sure necessary changes are factored into the plans. So if COVID comes, you know, okay, the next thing is to take our processes online. Yeah. If any other disaster comes, you know, okay, this is what next we do. So your team are constantly scanning through the environment to know whatever changes occurs. So the third one, deliver working software frequently from a couple of weeks to a couple of months with a preference to the shorter time scale. So delivering your product is small. Frequent increments is important because it allows time and regular opportunities for stakeholders here. This includes your customers, your employees and the likes, to give feedbacks on its progress. Now, so what this is telling us is that if you are delivering your your product or your working software frequently, you can always get feedback on time, so you know what to change. For instance, I want to build a website now. If I deliver it on time, okay, I can always get a feedback that, okay, just change this design, change this interface and the likes. Just compare it to the time that I have to wait for this process or this stage before I go to the next stage and the likes. So deliver your working software frequently so that you can always get feedback on time. The fourth one is business people and developers must work together daily throughout the project. Now, there's always this interconnection, like between business people and developers in traditional approach, because one have to work before the other works. But what agile principle is saying is that these people must always come together daily to work together. So you are bringing the solution from your business perspective, putting it into cognizance as a developer to know what next to build as a software. Now, the fifth one is build projects around motivated individuals. Give them the environment and support they need and trust them to get the job done. Now, this is just about your team. Like I said in the earlier on, that the agile project management is focusing not only on the end users here, we are focusing on the team also. So what we are saying is allow your motivate your individuals. How do you motivate? You can have them be free to do what what they feel is best to do. Then you can always correct. Yeah. So if people are restricted to work, like, oh no, I don't want to do this because no, I don't want my oga to complain, or how, you would not move ahead, because then you will not be getting new ideas from people. So give people their environment, support their needs, and trust them to get the job done. And if you look vividly, this is one of the reasons why the tech industry is booming in a massive way, because if you see some of their employees, they are very free-minded. If you go to their work environment, you see everybody is relaxed, not a tensed environment, just like the bank. Apologies to the banker in our midst. So the sixth one is the agile processes. Agile processes promote sustainable development. The sponsors, developers, and users should be able to maintain a constant pace should be able to maintain a constant pace indefinitely. So, so this one is saying is that your team needs not to be overworked. Like, you don't need to overwork your team or let them be overwhelmed. So on the flip side, a team needs to, if they are bored, like if you are doing the same thing, if you are doing the same thing at this every day, you get bored, and that's going to affect your project. So agile process is actually sustaining, for a sustainable development to happen. must maintain a constant pace indefinitely. So working software is the primary measure of progress. Um, like I said in the values, there's more emphasis on what really matters than just comprehensive documentation. So this just laying emphasis on working software over just documenting. So um, 8 says the most efficient and effective method of conveying information through and within a development team is face-to-face conversation. If you remember the example I said that when I was working in a former firm, I would always want to just use the Slack people. Okay, I'm having this issue, but Agile is saying is laying emphasis on why don't you just meet face-to-face conversation, have and sort out whatever issue or whatever project you are embarking on. So the ninth one is continuous attention to technical excellence and good design enhances um, agility. So what this one is saying is that you should you should pay attention to technical excellence and good design in the sense that your technical team must be the best. Yeah, you want to produce something that that gives that promotes your company. Yeah. So good design enhances agility, technical excellence also enhances agility. So the 10th one, simplicity. The art of maximizing the amount of work not done is essential. Like I said, just your work environment, just keep it simple, not too much documentation or whatever. Just keep it simple, maximize the amount of work that you want to do. The 11th one says the best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organizing teams. So your team must your team must be self-organizing in the sense that they must be able to organize themselves. Must and this we are going to be discussing in some of the skills of some of the agile roles later on. The 12th one says at regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective, then tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. So this is just talking about some of the events like retrospectives, sprints, daily scrum, and the likes. So you need to meet from time to time to review, okay, this is what we've done, this is the next approach, this is what we want to achieve, this is what our timeline is. So Agile emphasizes more on meeting regularly, meeting daily, meeting weekly, and meeting monthly. So we'll be going to Scrum, and I'm going to share you a video, a brief history on what Scrum is. Just give me some few minutes. Let me break that up. Please give me a few minutes, please. Okay, sorry, let's just go ahead. I was trying to get if I can. So Scrum, what does Scrum mean? Scrum refers to a formation in rugby. Rugby is this American football where all of the players on the team lean forward, lock their heads together, and they work as one unit to try and gain precious yards towards the scoring line. The originators of the Scrum methodology saw their team as a heads down group working very closely together to get that ball down the field, just like a scrum in a rugby match. So if you look at this image now, you would see how the scrum, how everybody's head is locked. This is just what scrum is about, and this was what the people that came up with that concept were thinking. So in Scrum in project management, when you use Scrum for project management, you form a team that will work together quickly, that will be able to quickly develop and test a deliverable. The work is completed in short cycle. If you remember in the principles where um we talked about how you should release your product on time so that you can get feedback. And the team meets daily, just like the last principle that talks about meeting regular intervals to discuss current tasks and clear up anything that's blocking their progress. So that's just basic thing about Scrum. It's just about you developing, you working in short circles, your team meeting daily, then discussing current tasks and clearing up whatever is blocking your progress in execution of your project. Now, Scrum also uses an iterative and incremental approach, just like we learned in the Agile and differences between the Agile and Waterfall. In Agile, there is this iterative and incremental approach, while in Waterfall, you have this linear where you follow through from one stage to another. So iterative refers to the fact that project processes are repeated. So your planning is not about the linear process where you have to go from your planning phase to your initiation to your execution. So you have some of these processes coming repeatedly. So incremental also refers to the work being divided into smaller chunks that build on each other. So here you are not you are reducing complex projects into smaller units so that you can work in short circles, you can deliver on time. The product is built over time through work done during each iteration. Each of these instances of the product is called an increment. So when and later on, I think during the artifacts, we are going to be discussing on the what done means and what increment also means. Iteration and increments allows us to keep checking in on our progress throughout the life cycle of the project. This helps us become more predictable and manage the uncertainty in our project. If you remember the values that talks about responding to change over following a plan, the uncertainty here is that things might just come up anytime, whether macro issues, whether disaster, whether one of your trusted employee or one of your best employee leaving the um, the firm, and that will just put your project at jeopardy. So, what are the pillars of Scrum? So, can you see my screen?
We can see it, but it's not showing. It's just at the Scrum.
It's actually not moving. That's
Wow,
what the message.
people should have allowed me. Oh, wow. Wow. Can you see it now? What pillars of Scrum?
Yeah, we've been seeing it before. We've been seeing it before. It just
So
stopped at that point. But now it's here. Yeah,
okay,
yeah, it's showing now. It's showing now. It's showing now.
Okay, thank you very much. So
now Scrum brief history. That's what we can see.
Okay, thank you. So this was what I was explaining about Scrum, about people just locking their head together to achieve a project. And so these are the pillars of Scrum. They are just three talks about transparency, talks about inspection, talks about adaptation. So what is transparency? We all know the English meaning of transparency. So what transparency in Scrum is just telling us that your work is visible enough for everyone. So you're not keeping, you know how in school you are doing exam and some people are covering some people are covering their work. They don't want others to see. Yeah. So transparency is just telling us that your work is visible to those responsible for the outcome. Everyone must be transparent from the upper part, from the stakeholders, from the project development team to the product owner to the customer. This includes everyone from the Scrum team, members to senior sponsors, and even our users. So it's easier to be transparent with a small team. And luckily, Scrum teams are deliberately small, ranging from between 3 and 9 people. So let's note that our Scrum teams are just about 3 and 9 people, and this actually makes projects easier and faster. Just imagine you having like 20 people on your Scrum team. Imagine debating and all. So and that was one of the one of the values that talks about working software, emphasizing on what really matters than just debating and going through a lot of documentation. So these ways you avoid missed signals, breakdowns of communication, and unnecessary complications. So transparency includes inside the Scrum team is critical to the team's productivity and the project's completion. So what all this is just saying is that your work is visible to everyone. Everyone can see it. And you are not trying to be the hero of the company or hero of the project or the team. So everyone can see your project, and it is this makes work and team productivity better. So the second pillar is inspection. So inspection refers to conducting timely checks towards the outcome of the sprint goal to detect undesirable variances. If you remember the one of the principles that talks about we meeting on daily at regular intervals, it's just about this pillar also, inspection, because once you meet daily, once you do your timely check, you know you can easily detect errors in your project or in your software development. So this means that we are always checking in on our progress and deliverables so that we can detect any undesirable changes. So imagine that you are not doing inspection, you are just going through your project from one phase to another. At the end of the project, you now want to monitor, but then there has been some errors earlier on in some phases. But the agile approach is actually bringing in that do your timely check from time to time during your daily scrum, during your weekly sprints, or at your retrospectives. So when team works in an agile way, a stakeholder review of their work is a necessary opportunity for growth and progress. The more inspections that take place, the more improvement a team experiences in their work. There's real value to be gained from deliberate expression while you have a chance to change and improve. So this is just telling us that it's more better to inspect on time when you can change those errors and you can improve on them. So detecting an error earlier is way better for you. It's even more good for you in your risk management so that you can always avoid some of those losses. Yeah. So the third one is adaptation. So adaptation means that we are continuously searching for ways to adjust our projects, product, or processes to minimize any further deviation or issues. If you remember one of the values and principles, the value that talks about responding to change, the principle that talks about your team scanning the environment from time to time to ensure that, okay, what's the next thing? Okay, election time is coming. Dollar rate is going to be high. There's global inflation. There's this war in There's war in Russia and Ukraine. And let me tell you about what this war has done as regards adaptation. I worked with this oil firm before I joined one of the firm I was working before, and it was we deal in lubricants. We produce lubricants and oil for firms, for higher manufacturing firms. But because of this Russia and Ukraine crisis, the price of base oil has gone up. The price of additives has gone up, and we had to close down because there was no agile concept or approach in place for us to know that, okay, yeah, we have to be sure that, okay, let's scan that what's going on in the global economic issues. How does it affect us? How do we respond to change? Even if Russia is going to war with USA, we are safe. You get right. So adaptation means that we are continuously searching for ways to adjust our projects, our processes, and minimize issues and risk in the long run. So in Scrum and in Agile as a whole, for that matter, we embrace change so that we are always improving. So change doesn't come to us suddenly. We are always ready to integrate any change in Agile project management. So, so what are the Scrum values? We have there are 5 of them. Their courage, focus, commitment, respect, and openness. Remember, Scrum is about team working together. Yeah, it's about you locking heads together as a team. And if you are working as a team, there's you're having people from different backgrounds. So in Scrum or in Agile, this Scrum values actually guides us to behave accordingly. One is commitment. Commitment is just about telling us that everyone is committed to achieving the goals of the Scrum team. So we are not thinking about achieving this, another person is thinking about achieving that. Yeah. So commitment is simply put in is everyone on the team and the Scrum team is personally committed to achieving the goals of the Scrum team. Secondly, is courage. Your Scrum team members must have the courage to do the right thing and work on tough problems. So, if you are committed, surely you must be courageous. You must be courageous. So, you don't have this tough task to do and you feel like, no, I can't do that. Give it to the next person. So in any project, there's a body of work that needs to get done. Some of that work will be relatively simple, and some will be complex with many risks. So one of the values that you must have as in your Scrum team is courage. Courage to work in the when it's time to work with the simple task, and also courage to work when it's time to work in the tough problems also. And there's this the third one is focus. Focus is everyone focusing on the necessary work within the sprint and the overall goals of the Scrum team. So you are not you are not focused on achieving probably a website, and another person is already thinking about building an app. You get, so we are focusing on what is really what really matters. Like I said in one of the values, that working software is about focusing on really what really matters. The fourth one is value is openness. For Scrum to work, the team and its stakeholders agree to be open about all the work and the various challenges that come with performing the work. Openness is essential to a productive Scrum team. In order to gather data, team members must be willing to share their observations and experiences. If you remember in one of the examples I said earlier on, that it's not that one person is trying to be the hero of the team. Everybody is open. If you're having a problem, you share with people that, oh, I'm having this problem with this task. Can you assist me? Yeah. So this is one of the essential, these 5 key essential that are essential values for any Scrum team. So everybody must be open. even if it's the CFO, if it's the head of the team, is having any problem, is open to his team member that, oh, I'm having this issue. Can we solve it together? Can we lock head just as that sporting team to solve the issue? Why the fifth one is about respect. Like I said, in your team, you are having people coming from different perspectives. So you must be able to respect people's opinion. You must be able to respect people's skills. You must be able to respect the independence of your fellow teammates. So if you're having people coming from different angle, they are coming with different ideas. They are coming with different backgrounds. So you are not just shunning them off. If you remember, I don't know if one of my colleagues have taken you on that, on one of the rules of brainstorming, like you must allow everybody speak and you must respect each other's opinion. So one of the one of the value, one of the key values of Scrum is respect. You must respect others' contribution. You must respect them individually also, and this is crucial in making the product of business as successful as possible. So, in order for a team to bring the three pillars of Scrum to life, what are these three pillars? Transparency, adaptation, and openness. Yeah, they must act in accordance with the 5 Scrum values. So let's go back to the transparency, inspection, and adaptation. So these are the 3 pillars. These are the 5 Scrum values. So what are the Scrum roles and responsibilities? What are the key roles in Scrum? We've mentioned that we are having different team locking head together. And like I said, in the Scrum team is always between 3 to 9. It's a very, very small team. So you don't want to have a team of like 20 people, and at the end of the day, you are not achieving the desired results. So there are 3 defined roles. There are many other roles under the Scrum team, but the really 3 ones that are really defined is the product. One is the product owner. The second one is the development team. And the third one is the Scrum Master. Yeah, the Scrum Master, the product owner, and the development team. So these roles work together to achieve the team's objective and realize the mission and vision. Like I said, these are just the defined roles. Under some of these roles, you would see some other roles, like the development team. You can have the UI UX design, the software developer, the front-end engineer, and the likes also. So the Scrum Master. So who is the Scrum Master? The Scrum Master is, let's just say the Scrum Master is just like the project manager. Yeah. So he promotes and supports the Scrum processes by helping everyone understand and implement Scrum. Yeah. He promotes and supports the Scrum processes by helping everyone understand and implement Scrum. So what are these Scrum? They are the Scrum values, the Scrum pillars. And if you remember the Scrum pillars as transparency, adaptation, and inspection, the Scrum values as courage, commitment, openness, respect. Yeah. So this includes its practices, rules, and values. My favorite way to describe the role of a Scrum Master is that they are responsible for helping the team be their very best. Like I said, they are synonymous to a project manager. So it facilitates Scrum events such as the sprint retrospectives, which happen at the end of every sprint. Like I said during one of the 12 principles that we are going to talk about this sprint retrospective at this Scrum event. So what are the responsibility of Scrum Master? So one is that it facilitates Scrum events, like we said earlier, such as sprint retrospective, daily Scrum, weekly Scrum, and the likes, which happen at the end of every sprint. The Scrum Master helps the team remove any blockers to their progress, such as missing information or accessing to training or access to training or tools. If you remember, one of the principles that talks about creating a better environment for your workers or your team, access to training or tools is just one of them. Because you don't want to have a team and they are not well technically sound. So you have to, whether you're going to, and I'm aware of, because I have some of these tech people around me, most of their firm send them on training or pay for some of their courses just for them to have that technical know-how so that it's on the long run, or it will have a ripple effect on their productivity and business also. So the Scrum Master helps you to, during the inspection, to detect some of the missing information or some of the errors and access to training or tools. Also, the Scrum Master also prevents unhelpful interactions or interruptions coming from outside of the team. Now, one of these unhelpful interactions, like I said, that you have people coming from different angles and you need to respect them. So if you don't take that value into concept or you don't take it at hand, you'll be having issues with people. And one of the roles of this Scrum Master is to ensure that some of these unhelpful interaction, like fracas or issues among teammates, doesn't happen. So is like the leader of the team that ensures that no, you don't have issues with each other or you don't have issues with one another as a team. Also, interruptions coming from outside of the team. So, like I said, he's like the project manager. So he's like the one connecting to the stakeholder. So you don't want an issue where someone is disturbing one of your teammates. So one of the roles of or responsibility of the Scrum Master is to ensure that there is little or no interruption coming from outside of the team. Is someone trying to talk? I can hear someone. Okay, we'll go ahead. So what are the skills? Leadership as a project manager, coaching. And what is this coaching? Coaching is just to ensure that everybody puts into practice the rules, the values of Scrum. Organizational skills, he organizes the team. He ensures that everything that the team needs is in place at every point in time. Stakeholders management, like I said, he interacts with the stakeholders also to ensure that there are little or no interruptions coming from them to the team. The next one is the product owner. So who is a product owner? A product owner is responsible for continuously maximizing the value of the product delivered by the Scrum team. Their key activity is acting as the voice of the customer within the team. If you remember, one of the values of Agile is customer collaboration, and I said that at every point in time, your customer is included in your processes. So you know their needs at every point in time. So this product owner is like someone acting as the voice of the customer within the team. So they represent and express the voice of ownership of the product's backlog. They represent and express this voice through their ownership of the product's backlog. At the end, during the Scrum event, we are going to look at what product backlog means. So what are the responsibilities of this product owner? The product owners responsibility also includes helping the Scrum team understand why their work matters within the overall goal and mission. Let's just say is the second in command to the Scrum Master. So if the Scrum Master is not around, you have a product owner that also ensures that everybody understands what the goal and mission of whatever you want to deliver is. And if you are going to be taking this into cognizance, you are taking the needs of the customer also into cognizance. So they also prioritize the product backlog to optimize the delivery of of goods, goals and deliver value to customers. So they ensure that okay, this on the product backlog, what's the next thing to do? This is what we want to achieve. This is how we must achieve this so that we can deliver on time to the customers. The product owner ensures that the product backlog is visible and transparent to all, just like one of the pillars of Scrum, transparency. Very, very key. Transparency is very, very key. So it's not that you want to achieve this because your product backlog is just like your project charter where you have everything you want to do in. Yeah. So if you as a project manager is the only one that knows the content of the project charter, how do you want your team to work? How do you want them to know, okay, this is the next phase? So the product owner ensures that the product backlog is visible and transparent to all, so everybody knows what they want to do, how they want to do it, how it is prioritized, what is going to come before another. And finally, they are responsible for making sure that the product or service fulfills the customer's needs, just like as the voice of the customer. They ensure that whatever the customers want, they must always fulfill, because this is very, very essential for their firm or organization and for them too as a team. So what some of the skills are: decisive, great communicator, because you have to communicate with your customers, you have to communicate with your team. Flexibility, just like we said, agile is just about being flexible. So you are not rigid. You are not rigid to changes. You are open to changes. Optimistic, available, but always available at the time, because we don't want to have a daily scrum now, or we want to have a retrospective and our product owner is not available. What do we want to discuss? So availability is one essential skill, and collaborative. You must be able to work with other people. Very, very key. In agile, even as a scrum master, you must also be collaborative skills is very, very essential. You must be able to work with everybody. So the last one, the development team. So the development team is made up of the people who do the work to build the product. The size of the team ranges from 3 to 9. Just like we said in Scrum, that the Scrum team is a very, very small team. So just about 3 to 9 people. This ensures that the team is small enough to remain nimble, but large enough to complete significant work within each sprint. Essentially, what this is saying is that we are small, but then we are big in achieving whatever objective we want to achieve. Because getting the team size just right is important. Smaller teams can struggle with diversity of skills and ideas, while larger teams may run into issues where there are not many opinions and streams of communication. What this is just saying, like I've emphasized, is just that you achieve more when you are small, when you are in a smaller team, than when you have a larger team where you have to discuss, debate, you have to brainstorm, you have to listen to everybody. Imagine having a scrum or a retrospective and you have like 20 people that you want to discuss, and you must ensure that you listen to everybody. One of the rules of brainstorming, you must take everybody's idea into play, and you must not shun anybody out. So imagine how that is going to affect the timeline and how to deliver the product. And remember, in Agile project management, it's about delivering of products in short cycles. So the smaller the team, the shorter the deliverable of the products or goods. So one of the skills of the development team cross-functionally. So you'll be working um, cross-functionally. So if you are working in compliance, for instance, you might be working with some of the developers to ensure that, okay, probably this I run a app team. Let me just say that, or like let me just say OP. So the compliance team is ensuring that, yeah, we are working with the developers to ensure that faults are not going in place. People are not withdrawing money as against um, the regulation in play. So cross-functionally, HR works with business people work with developers work with people in internal control, the accountants work with people on the web team and the likes. Customer oriented, you must always put your customer um also in whatever decision or whatever thing you want to achieve as a team. Then collaborative, just like I've said, you must be able to work with other people. You must, and you must be able to respect other people's opinion, skills, and independence also. So, before we close up, the last aspect is the Scrum events, and I have like um, a 4 minute video that clearly explain this Scrum event. Before I would also explain further. Please, I want to share another screen. So I want someone to just notify me when they see the video come up. Thank you.
Google Digital Skills for Africa. They give more than 40 online courses where they free. You fit learn new work, like the small things where they digital market.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's clear.
All right, thank you.
Hi, I'm Dominic Maximini, and today I want to talk a little bit about Scrum. They are called event on purpose because meetings. Dominic Maximini, and today I want to talk a little bit about Scrum events. They are called event on purpose because meetings are very boring and not always focused. And in Scrum, we try to have fun and we try to be very focused on value and the specific outcomes we are seeking with our events. We have 5 of them. The first is the sprint itself. The second is the sprint planning. Then we have a daily Scrum, a sprint review, and a sprint retrospective. The sprint is somewhat special because it's a container event. It wraps all other events. It has a maximum duration of 1 month, and everything else happens within it. Every sprint. Then we have a daily Scrum. The second is the sprint. First is the sprint itself. We have 5 of them. The first is the sprint itself. The second is the sprint planning. Then we have a daily Scrum, a sprint review, and a sprint retrospective. The sprint is somewhat special because it's a container event. It wraps all other events. It has a maximum duration of 1 month, and everything else happens within it. Every sprint you have to deliver a working product increment. That's something. Now you start a sprint with a sprint planning. The Scrum team meets, you take input from the product backlog, and you transform it in the sprint backlog to something that is actionable for the development team. So after the sprint planning, the team is good to go and they start working. Every day they do a daily Scrum. The daily Scrum is for the development team, for nobody else. And here the development team inspects their progress to date towards the sprint goal, and they adapt the sprint backlog depending on the dependencies, impediments, and progress they have. At the end of the sprint, everybody meets at the sprint review, and the product increment is shown to the stakeholders. That's not a demo, it's not an acceptance meeting of any sort. It's a collaborative working session. So the stakeholders should try out the product increment. They should play around with it. And that generates input. So you inspect the product increment and you adapt the product backlog. Last but not least, the Scrum team meets to do a sprint retrospective. That means they inspect their interactions, their processes, and they look on how to improve. And every sprint, at least one thing is improved. It should increase fun and it should increase focus and value creation. That's it, basically. That is a very short, very brief introduction to the Scrum events. I hope you liked it. If you want to connect and learn more.
So before I take this off, I want to play it one more time so that we can get what he's saying about some of these Scrum events. Then I'll explain further.
On purpose, because meetings are very boring and not always focused. And in Scrum, we try to have Hi, I'm Dominik Maximini, and today I want to talk a little bit about Scrum events. They are called event on purpose because meetings are very boring and not always focused. And in Scrum, we try to have fun and we try to be very focused on value and the specific outcomes we are seeking with our events. We have 5 of them. The first is the sprint itself. The second is the sprint planning. Then we have a daily Scrum, a sprint review, and a sprint retrospective. The sprint is somewhat special because it's a container event. It wraps all other events. It has a maximum duration of 1 month, and everything else happens within it. Every sprint you have to deliver a working product increment. That's something. Now you start a sprint with a sprint planning. The Scrum team meets, you take input from the product backlog, and you transform it in the sprint backlog to something that is actionable for the development team. So after the sprint planning, the team is good to go and they start working. Every day they do a daily Scrum. The daily Scrum is for the development team, for nobody else. And here the development team inspects their progress to date towards the sprint goal, and they adapt the sprint backlog depending on the dependencies, impediments, and progress they have. At the end of the sprint, everybody meets at the sprint review, and the product increment is shown to the stakeholders. That's not a demo, it's not an acceptance meeting of any sort. It's a collaborative working session. So the stakeholders should try out the product increment. They should play around with it. And that generates input. So you inspect the product increment and you adapt the product backlog. Last but not least, the Scrum team meets to do a sprint retrospective. That means they inspect their interactions, their processes, and they look on how to improve. And every sprint, at least one thing is improved. It should increase fun and it should increase focus and value creation. That's it, basically. That is a very short, very brief introduction to the Scrum events. I hope you liked it. If you want to connect and learn more, meet me on
Being a student during exam season gets incredibly stressful, and my laptop gets extremely cluttered. Here's how I transform my laptop from this crazy mess to this organized system using Identity. First, I created categories for all my university subjects. Next, I added all of the important websites. When I click a tile, Identity will autofill.
I said we can't see a video.
I've played the video.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. This one that is playing now was just playing with no video. Is there any video for this one?
Okay.
Just a presentation.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I want to.
Maybe you didn't share the screen for the
Yeah.
video.
So essentially, like he has said, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so in Scrum events, there are key events in Scrum: the sprint itself, the sprint planning, the daily Scrum, sprint review, and the sprint retrospective. So sprint is just about getting ideas, getting feedback quicker, and encouraging your teams to collaborate and provide more focus for your team. That's what just sprint is about. The sprint planning phase is about you planning the entire team, the entire Scrum team coming together to meet and confirm some of what you want to achieve. Yeah. So the daily Scrum, this happens almost every day. And for some of us that work in the bank, you must have had probably, or if you have a friend in the bank, you hear that they used to have these early morning meetings or stuff. Or if you are working in a firm that you have these early morning meetings. Can you see my screen? Can anyone see my screen?
Yes, sir. We can see the presentation.
Okay. Thank you. So the daily Scrum is just about you meeting daily to know, okay, this is what we've achieved so far in our sprint backlog. This is what is in our backlog. This is what's next. This is some of where we can improve on. And like I said, the sprint backlog is just like your project chapter, where you have some of the processes, some of the things you want to achieve. Yeah. So the sprint review is where you meet with the entire Scrum team, where the product is demonstrated in order to determine which aspects are finished and which are not. So here it's just like they call something minimum viable product, where you just demonstrate, okay, this is what we've achieved so far, and this is what we've not achieved. That's what the sprint review is about. Then the sprint retrospective is the baba of everything. If you see that this circle is going from the sprint planning to the daily Scrum to the sprint review, then it ends with the sprint retrospective. And usually the sprint retrospective takes time. It takes about 3 hours maximum, because here you take a step back, you reflect on some of the things you've done so far, you identify some of the areas you want to improve on, and you just enjoy yourself. Just like the guy said, meetings are always boring, very, very boring. But at sprint retrospective, when you have your daily scrum, when you have your daily sprints, you just enjoy yourself. You just want to know, okay, this is what we've achieved, this what these are areas to improve on, and the likes. Um so for the artifacts, like I said, the sprint backlog is just almost the same thing as the product backlog. So for a product, okay, this is what we want to achieve. These are the processes. Just to document your backlog so that everybody sees it. Remember the pillars of Scrum, transparency. Everybody sees this and knows that, okay, this is what to achieve, this is where we've achieved, and this is what we've achieved so far. The increment is just about, okay, this is what I've added um to our project, just showing your your project stakeholders some of the increments. Then done is just when you've agreed. It's like you've agreed upon that. Okay, this is what we are. This is what we can say when we achieve it. We are done. Yeah. So that's what done is about. It's just an agreed upon set of items that must be completed. Yeah. So, and your stakeholders, your customers, your development team, your your yourself also, the product owner are part of the stakeholders, the customers are part of the stakeholders. So at this point, and also I want to say that for some of the Scrum team roles, you can hear something about IT, Agile Project Manager, DevOps, and the likes. These are some of Scrum roles that if you see their job adverts, you know that, okay, they need someone to come and lead or work in the Scrum team. So, like I said earlier on, this is just like an introduction to the course. We can't take everything in Agile project management because it's a very, very, very wide concept. And even aside project management, people take it on its own, like a course on its own. So if there are any questions, you can drop it in the chat box or you can just unmute and ask.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Thank you for this educative presentation. I want to believe we gain a lot. Well, my question is, as a project manager, what are the determinants for this for the adoption of this methodology? Is it by experience, or is it acquired by experience that, okay, you use this methodology, or by nature of product or the project we have at hand? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that question. Very, very good question. So the Agile concept, like I said earlier on, is yeah, it depends on products sometimes. For instance, in the software or tech industry, most of the approaches you see is the Agile approach. In fact, even in some banks, you see the Agile approach. But it's not like they'll tell you, okay, this is the approach we are using. But when you are working there, and from your knowledge of this, you'd start seeing some of these aspects, some of these daily scrums. When you start meeting daily, when you hear something like sprints, they might not call it sprints, they might call it sprints. You hear of retrospectives and the likes, then you know that, okay, yeah, these people are adopting the agile mindset or agile approach, and it can work in any industry. So it's not limited to just probably software development. You can use it in any product development or project development. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
So any other question? If you don't ask, I'll ask my own question. Should I go ahead and answer my question? And I have something for anybody that gets it, or something very something you would appreciate. So please ask your question.
Okay, now, so I have a question, sir.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so my own question is, you've explained all this thing in documentation or in document procedures. I'm currently working on a project and I've not been following this whole method. So how do I, and I feel like, okay, these are better ways, because the project I'm working on is something like the Scrum. I myself don't really know the way forward. Like, I don't really know each step, but I know that this is where we're going to. I want to build something, but I don't know each of the steps to take. So, and then the Scrum still seem similar to like that situation, but so I don't know, how does one practicalize all these things? Like someone that is already in the work already and he just gets to learn all these things. So, like, can they put them into?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. I think the first point is just to identify. Since you've identified that, okay, yeah, I think this is a better approach, and this was what led to those people that came together in the 2000 to bring about Scrum. What they thought that, yeah, we've been using this traditional approach, but I think there's a more better approach we should use. That was what brought about the Scrum. So first is your product or the project you are going on, you are working on. If you can just tell me the project so that I can use that to explain.
Okay. So this is I like currently serve in a school. So like we're planning to build a fish pond. We're planning to, I'm building it with students. So, and the fish pond is not something I've ever built from scratch. So I myself not built from scratch, but more like I'm just trying to gather knowledge, gather everything, because I'm the main person behind it. So there's a structure on ground before. So like something like that now. So sometimes we just come, I'll just say, okay, let us come today. We look at what we do. Then we do an action. We all just, okay, we have done something today. Like each day of school, we are going like that. So like that is physical, that's like the project. And also on costing and estimation of everything too. So we don't have a particular timeline, but we are just looking like, okay, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So that's also what I can like explain. I don't know if it's much clearer now.
I'm trying to incorporate some of these agile concepts with principles, values to the fish pond or the farming aspect. But what I can just tell you is it's not necessary for you to just say you want to use the agile approach alone. You can blend the waterfall, which is the traditional project management approach, which has to do with the project planning, initiation, execution phase, with the agile approach. So what am I saying is that, what I'm saying in essence is that, so if you start your project, so you've started with the project planning, you've initiated your project, you can incorporate daily scrums where you meet with your teams. That, okay, let's know the number of fish we have, number of fish that have died, what's the action, or what do they call it, where you get eggs of fish, what is our daily limit, or what is our daily goal about that. Then you can also have retrospective. Then you can incorporate some of the values also, openness, transparency. You can emphasize it to your team that okay, everybody must be transparent. So if something happened at your hand, probably a fish died or something happened, just be transparent, just be open. Then everybody should respect each other. Then you can adopt some of the principles of Agile also that talks about scanning your environment. Okay, rainy season is coming. So I have a neighbor here that has a fish pond, and where I live is close to like a water place, yeah. And sometimes, most times, he loses his fish rainy season. Water just washes them away. So you can scan your environment that okay, it's time for rainy season. Let's reduce our fish or let's take them to another aspect. You're adopting one of the principle of what do they call it? Of Agile. Then also you can improve on customer collaboration. So instead of just waiting for your customer, you can interact with your customer, know their needs at every point in time. Okay, your customer needs this for during festive period, or you just adopt some of those values, blend it with some of the traditional approach you have. So it's not in essence that you adopt everything in Agile. I hope that answers your question.
Yes. I can understand. Now, just to pick out like things that will make work much more smoother and like
Yes,
from the
exactly.
agile this thing.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. I know
So if
also
if
also
there's any other
one
question.
more one more thing on the scrum this thing is on supervision. On supervision. How does it feel like when like this person supervising is like I don't know, it might be tagged lazy or something. So how does somebody like fuck you like it will be like maybe you are coming to feel and then the person supervising is more just like that and the other people are more like this guy is not working or is not doing something. How does somebody work with that? I don't know if
So
you understand.
yeah, I get your question. So if you remember in the let me go back to that slide. In the Scrum Master, so here you are the Scrum Master, yeah. And if you remember, one of the um responsibilities of the Scrum Master is to ensure that he coaches, yeah, he he lets everyone understand and implement Scrum. And what are these Scrum values? We've mentioned some of those values, openness and the likes, respect and courage. So you must make sure everyone understand what you are doing first. You must coach them from time to time. You must also ensure they have access to training or tools. What makes people lazy is when they don't even know what to do, or some people don't even have um, passion for what they do. So, as a Scrum Master, you must understand your people. You must give them access to training. You must give them access to tools that will make their work easier. And also, you must also ensure that there are no unhelpful interactions, probably issues among teammates. Feeling okay, this one is doing, I'm the one doing the work, he's not doing the work. So you must ensure that those unhelpful interaction doesn't happen in your team. So essentially, as a Scrum Master or a project manager, these are some of your responsibilities. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Totally. Yeah, correct.
So if there are any other questions, please.
And yeah, lastly, I don't know. This talks about project management in total. Not like what about funding or how to source a fund from your project, like exhibition or just a clip. Like okay, this is what I've done, and then maybe to imagine maybe we have a supervisor or someone that is funding us. So how you manage sourcing for funds or like to bring out that okay, this is what we've done. So you can okay, let's see, yeah, take more and go and do more project or more work.
Yeah, I get. I don't know. Some of my colleagues must have taken you on funding. I don't know if you've attended the previous classes.
Yeah,
Um, So funding is like another aspect of project management, and it has to do with your stakeholders also. Even when you want to, probably you got a budget, you got a budget of 1 million, and you are trying to go above that budget. How do you meet your project manager or your stakeholders? Uh, that's a that's another aspect. And I feel since you are taking this course, if you're going to be taking the real course, they're going to take you on that. So it's another huge concept that can be taken for a whole day on funding.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right. So any other question? Mr. Kosoko, do you want to ask a question?
Yeah. Regarding the funding that you mentioned, I believe you have a project sponsor and we have stakeholders.
Yes.
So the funding aspect after the budget has been gotten should be for the sponsor or one of the stakeholders as a whole. Am I correct?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
yes. The project sponsors are the people that sponsor the projects, obviously, and they're the one that releases the money after you've done your project. But that, I think what he is saying is about funding of the business. I don't. I think is aside the project is your project sponsor, but I think what he wants is how to get funding for your project, and I think that is another aspect when you want to go outside of your sponsors. It might be your sponsor. You might have a project, for instance.
Yes.
It might be the sponsor of the project. You don't have the funding for the project. So how do you get this funding? So for the benefit of people here, there are other you hear about. You can go to the bank for a loan, but you must have done your due diligence. You must have your books, your financial statements, or you must have probably someone, a financial analyst, help you do your financial modeling, where they model your business for probably 2 or 3 years to show that okay, this is what we are going to, this is the income, this is the revenue we generate, this is the net profit we generate, and okay, we want so in equity, we want so in debt, we want to release so percent in equity, so percent in debt. You get equity means ownership. Like if you are funding this business, you are part of the owner of this business. So we are partners. Why debt means you are giving me money, but I'm paying you your money back with interest. So that's just the difference. And or you can go to the development bank, development bank, bank of industry, bank of industry, and there's this program too that happens um on on DSTV, the Lions Den. You can just go on YouTube and watch how people seek for funding for their business on the Lions Den. Then you can reach out to friends. The mistake some of us do is we always think funding business. If you want to fund your business, you must have the money, you must go to the bank. You can source for funding from your family and friends, gather from them, then you know when to pay back. You know, in Islam forbids interest, and I think that's more safer for you than going to the bank where they put interest on the money. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Yeah. So if there are no other questions, thank you all for joining in. Next week, one of my colleagues will be taking on closing on the project. So we hope to see you next week. Thank you very much. And
Thank you very much, sir.
Jazakumullah
The class was very, very good. very, very unexplanatory. We'll just have to get the slides, sir, so that we can work on it. And the videos, so like the link to the videos. Does that
Yes,
correct,
yes, the slides will be sent to you and the videos too. Thank you, everyone.